The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day.
Hello, George.
Hey,
Hello,
Joe.
Jeremy. What's up? Good to see you guys.
Hey, man.
The two musketeers at the front lines of UFO disclosure.
It is scary if that's true, Joe.
I think you guys are. I mean, you're certainly prominent.
Can I get the mic turned up on this bad boy?
Yeah, there's a little thing right
Oh,
there.
shit.
You can hear your own voice. There's a volume knob right there. There we
Excellent.
go. We're up.
It's exciting times.
It is. It's very exciting times.
I've said it a few times that I never thought I would see it in my life. You know, I would just keep plugging away this is my 36th year doing this, chasing this crazy story. I never thought it would make this much progress. Still a long way to go, but
Are you apprehensive at all that some of the stuff that they're releasing is bullshit?
Of course.
Of
wait,
course.
Wait, who's releasing?
I mean, when you see these, the Pentagon's talking about it, when, intelligent officials, you ever wonder whether or not it's disinformation?
Yeah. You want to?
Yeah,
go ahead.
So, yeah, I'll take that first. Yeah, I've heard you kind of talk about that a bunch,
Yeah.
and I think it's a very healthy suspicion to have. My perspective is a little different in that people are always coming at me with fake information, like every day, all the time. But the people in government that we have been able to kind of interface with, I wish there was an adult in the room. I wish that this was orchestrated through the media. It would give me some sort of hope that someone has some sort of control on this, and that has not been my experience.
Okay, what is your experience? Like, what's your impression of how it's all happening?
It's a big question. I don't know where to start on that, but here's what I know. I know that there are people in government that want some level of disclosure on whatever this is without defining it. Just there should be oversight. So I know that to be true. There are good people that think that people are running amok and there must be oversight, not just financially, but if these types of technologies actually exist.
Right, who's in control of them and why? And
Yeah.
who has access to them and why?
I mean, we have a history of disinformation and misinformation put out to the public and to Congress by the intelligence community, by the Pentagon. They lie all the time. It's part of the turf. It's part of the job. But for them to then go into closed-door briefings with members of Congress, with the oversight committees who handle their budgets, for them to lie about that, that's another matter. And I don't think they would because they could get busted for it. A lot of stuff is coming out now, and I know we get asked all the time, who's behind this push? You know, it looks like it's one big movement as opposed to a bunch of different things that all happened in approximately the same time. It's kind of been organic. Different people have come forward, and it encourages other people to come forward as opposed to somebody doing a master manipulation of the whole thing.
What resistance is there to this information getting out?
There's resistance on like multiple levels. So despite what you believe to be true or not true, the big question is, are we going to be able to verify some of these claims? That's all I care about, right? If we're back engineering some of these craft, then I believe that we should have the discovery process to find out if things like what David Grush has said under oath, that he has literally put his well-being and his safety on the line for, if that is true, then we have a duty to find out. So the pushback comes from many levels. There's stigma. It's fucking huge, dude. Like it is political toxicity for some of these senators to even, people don't want to know, they don't want me to say I ever talk with them. It's like a toxic environment politically, the UFO thing.
Because everybody thinks it's bullshit, or you're a loon if you believe it. But
It's
not
just-
everybody, but quite a few people.
Not just that, it doesn't help you get reelected, man.
Right.
And then when you start poking the bear and going into the oversight committees and the Senate Intelligence Committee and all these things, they're like, whoa, this is our territory. Why are you, as Congress, pushing on us? Why are you doing that? Like, this is our job. We have clearances. So there's
Right.
that kind of pushback too.
You look back at the beginning of the cover-up, why did it happen? Why did it start? Well, if 1947, this gigantic wave of UFOs suddenly appear. You got Kenneth Arnold, you got Roswell, hundreds of sightings all over. We'd just come out of World War II, and our military is faced with a new threat that they really don't know what the hell it is. They start looking at it and try to figure it out, but they can't. So they sort of painted themselves into a corner of secrecy. Nobody wants to admit if you're a president or chairman of the Joint Chiefs, there's something flying in our atmosphere, and we can't control it. We can't even catch it. We can't detect it on radar. There's not much we can do. They don't want to admit that. Secondly, I think what was told to me by a Senate intelligence guy who was a chief staffer who oversaw black budget operations. He had come out to Area 51 looking into the Lazar stuff years ago, early 90s. And he told me, look, if this is true, if this cover-up is going on, if they are diverting millions of dollars, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars from legitimate national security programs to keep this cover-up going, as he suspected there were, then somebody's going to go to prison. When it comes out, they'd go to prison. I think we heard Dave Grush speaking before this House committee in late July, in which he talked about special access programs, hundreds of millions of dollars being funneled into them. Nothing ever comes out. Congress has no oversight. Congress doesn't even know they exist. That's the kind of thing you could send somebody to prison if and when it comes out. And then the final reason, we can only speculate about it, maybe there really is a big secret. I wonder about it. If I was told, here's the real deal, here's what's going to happen if this comes out, society will collapse. It is so overwhelming, so disturbing that it would hit the fan that everybody'd freak out. Maybe there is something like that. I don't know. But it gets dangerous for us to allow military folks to decide, I can know it, but you can't. Dad can know, but mom and the kids can't know. I don't like that.
Yeah,
I'd like to be able to know myself.
I don't like it either, but why do they think that society would collapse?
There was a Brookings Institute study that was done in 1960 where they looked at it. And, let's say it was confirmed that we came out and admitted that extraterrestrials are here. And they speculated, in looking at sociological matters, that social institutions would collapse. Do people want to still pay their taxes? Do they want to go to work? It was so overwhelming. The fact that we, a lesser species, have been discovered by something more intelligent. We know from human history how that works out. When the Europeans come to North America, we know what happens to the people who are already here, the less developed society. They collapse. They were wiped out. And I think that was the projection of that study. The only way to get around that, they said, is to prepare for it over a long period of time, to condition folks to get ready for it. Now, I don't know if there was ever a policy where they instituted that, but it kind of looks like it. All the UFO and alien movies and TV shows and X-Files this and books and reports and children's cartoons, it almost looks like we've been conditioned to get ready for it over the last 60 years.
When people talk about the possibility of these being some sort of black ops creation by the Defense Department, some sort of weapons grade drone that moves at insane speeds with some unknown technology that they've developed in secrecy, that kind of falls apart when you go back to 47. If you go back to 47 and you're seeing these vehicles that are behaving in a very similar way, or at least described in a very similar way, where they just jet off at insane rates of speed, no visible means of propulsion, no sound, that's the one thing that brings me back. Like, God, they seem to act the same. At least some of them do. They seem to be, and if we're talking about 1947, we can really safely assume that they did not have drone technology capable of, super hypersonic speeds at that time.
I'm really glad you mentioned that, because that is a big part of the issue here. Is like people can just say,
This episode is brought to you by AG1, and I'm going to tell you they have a really great deal for you. I've talked about AG1 for years, and that's because I've used AG1 for years. It's great. It's an easy way to get the nutrients I need, and I love how it makes me feel. AG1 is a foundational nutritional supplement that raises baseline health. It's one scoop in some cold water, and it covers your multivitamins, your probiotics, and a ton more. I really value the few minutes every morning when I mix up my AG1. I know I'm taking care of my foundational nutrition each day, whether I'm at home or if I'm on the road. And honestly, especially on the road, all that travel can be hard on your body, and that gets me to this new deal. Now you can get 10 free travel packs and a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 K2 drops with your first purchase. That's way more than I've ever seen before from them. So if you've been on the fence, you have to try AG1 now. Go to drinkag1.com/Rogan. Seriously, this is a really good deal, and I don't think it's going to last that long. That's drinkag1.com/Rogan. ag1.com/Rogan. This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Like many of us, you might think identity theft will never happen to you, but consider this. There's a new identity theft victim every 3 seconds in the U.S. That's over 15 million people by the end of this year, equal to the populations of New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago combined. Even worse, identity theft victims often don't even know they're victims. That's why LifeLock Identity Theft Protection alerts you to identity threats, even the ones that don't show up on a credit report, like data breaches, fraudulent transactions, loan and credit card applications, and crimes committed in your name. If your identity is stolen, your own dedicated LifeLock U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft, but LifeLock protects you in ways you simply can't on your own. Save up to 25% off your first year at lifelock.com/JRE. That's lifelock.com/JRE to save up to 25%.
Oh, this is really special projects that are even being hidden by our own government. The thing is, the UFO phenomenon has been ubiquitous. It's been everywhere in the world, and it's been going on before 1947. So somebody had that technology. Now, I do hope we've had some sort of ability to get derivative technologies. I know they've been trying to do that if we believe the core concept that we have craft that's more advanced than ours that we're trying to reverse engineer. So the fact you bring that up, and I want to touch on what you just said, the explanation I've been given, we've both been given, is that there are true national security concerns about this technology, that the cover-up or whatever, that it has to do with what will happen if we make a breakthrough in this technology, and that can be weaponized. So the secrecy, you could say, some people have tried to convince us that there's real, true national security issues with this, in that once you admit one thing, those next questions are going to come. And maybe we can't answer those yet. We don't know. So that's the fear, is like, it's like the Oppenheimer movie. Like, shit's been kept pretty secret, but stuff has come out. It's like, what happens if we admit the fundamental truth that there are craft of unknown origin that are more advanced technologically than ours? Doesn't matter where they're from. What happens if we admit that? So people are concerned, from my opinion, within government, that if they let that out, the follow-up, they're not going to be able to deal with.
This technology has been seen throughout human history, on every continent, in every culture, for as far back as humans have been around. That is not our technology that was flying around pre-1947. Look, Dave Fravor was here in this chair, Joe, talking to you, and he talked about the Tic Tac incident from 2004 as he testified before Congress in late July. We didn't have that technology then to do what the Tic Tac did. We don't have it now. We don't have it. If you look back at the paper trail, this is what got me hooked on this topic in the begin with. I can't go out and find UFOs. I don't know the cosmic meaning of all this stuff, but there is a paper trail within our government, documents, memos, reports that were generated by the Department of Defense before the Freedom of Information Act existed, before they had to worry about the public ever seeing these reports. Those documents paint a pretty clear picture. General Nathan Twining, who became Chief of the Air Force, he was also the first Air Force guy to be the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He wrote this document in 1947, the Twining Memo, where he talks about these things are not fictitious or imaginary. They're real, and they're not ours. And we don't think they're the Russians either. It's not our technology. We wish we had it.
I'm sorry. How did he describe it?
It's not fictitious or imaginary. It's real.
But how did he describe the crafts, or how they behave?
Metallic. They can appear and disappear. We can't detect them on our sensors, whatever, I guess it was radar back then, that they can outfly our best planes, fly circles around us. There's nothing we could do about them. We have no defense mechanism against them. And then there's the paper trail starts there. There was a study by the FBI and the U.S. Army in 1948. Then the CIA, after it was created, got involved. They've been studying this stuff for a long time, and the documents where they speak to each other, very frankly, this is real. It's not us. As the 1960, they put out a memo saying this is serious business. We need to figure this out. I think there are inescapable national security implications for this technology. There is a race for it. We're trying to get it. The Russians are trying to get it. The Chinese are trying to get it. Whoever gets it they win.
Are there some sort of reports about the Russians and the Chinese also having recovered crafts?
Dude, he smuggled a ton of classified documents out of Russia himself during Glasnost and Perestroika. He went and met with the heads of the UFO programs in Russia during that time period. He came back with all those documents and actually supplied them to some people. Like that happened.
It had a lot to do with Harry Reid's decision to go ahead and support funding because those documents show that the Russians are trying to do what we're trying to do, which is to take this stuff apart and figure out how it works.
And what year was